Two sessions these days, 55 minutes in duration, and later on this afternoon we'll have a 45-minute second opportunity for the drivers and for the teams to get themselves ready for what's going to be a big weekend of action here at the Nürburgring. So we have had a summer break, 5 weeks off for the drivers and the teams, of course, who worked very, very hard during the course of the season prepping these cars, and then in some cases fixing them after each race weekend. So a bit of time off for them after a very eventful weekend and a fantastic weekend at the Nürburgring. We've been to Oschersleben, Lausitzring, Zandvoort and the Nürburgring for the first half of the season. We kick off the second half of the season here at the Nürburgring with rounds 9 and 10 of the championship coming up. And then in the first weekend of September, we'll head to the Saxon Ring. At the end of September, to the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And then we'll round out the season at Hockenheim in October. That's a long way away, but I'm sure the season will go as quickly as it has in the first half of the season. We'll be there in a flash. So we're just 3 minutes away from the cars heading out onto the circuit, ready for this free practice session tomorrow. Of course, as is always the case, the format will be a 20-minute qualifying session in the morning to set the grid for the first race of the weekend, which gets underway at 1:30 local time. And then exactly the same thing will happen on Sunday, 20 minutes of qualifying and race 2 coming up. So far this season, we have had 4 race weekends, and in every single race weekend we've had 2 different winners across the course of the weekend. Nobody's got a double on a race weekend so far. We've had 7 different winners from the first 8 rounds of the championship, and only Jack Aitken has managed to win more than 1 race this season. However, he's back in 9th place in the championship because it's been very hard to be consistent this year. Jack's had some bad luck along the way as well, but we'll see how he gets on here. We have had a Ferrari win here in the GT3 era of DTM. And that was when he came and raced in DTM for a season by Alex Albon, of course, who went back then to Formula One. He's doing a great job these days with the resurgent Williams team. So the championship, Mirko Bortolotti leads the way, despite the fact that he hasn't had a race win yet. He's had 3 podiums. He's scored points, though, in every single round of the championship, and that has been hard to do in 2024, with it being so competitive, so mixed up the field. So 104 points for Mirko Bortolotti, who, of course, was a key championship contender for not just last season, but the season before as well. So the Italian leads, but only by 5 points from Kelvin van der Linde, who's got 99 points. He has had a win. That was at the Lausitzring, his best weekend so far, because he had a win and a second there. He was on the podium at Zandvoort as well. And Kelvin van der Linde has, like Mirko Bortolotti, managed to pick up points in every single round of the championship so far. René Rast picked up his first win of the 2024 DTM campaign at the Nürburgring, then had arguably an even better 5th place finish in race 2 because he had to come from 19th on the grid there. So those results, plus a very good weekend at Zandvoort where he was on the podium as well, have put René Rast up to 3rd in the championship all of a sudden, and only 11 points back on the championship leader, and then only 15 points back on Mirko Bortolotti, and 4th in the championship. Somebody else that's been super consistent this year, Maro Engel, 3 second-place finishes, points in all of the rounds of the championship. Not yet got a race win, but Maro and Winwood Racing, a very experienced pairing, are very much in the championship fight. Arjun Maini having his best season so far in the DTM. He's doing great in 5th place in the championship. He's been super consistent as well, with a podium finish at Zandvoort, a good 4th place finish at the Nürburgring last time out, the place where he got his first ever podium in the DTM at the end of his first campaign. He's only 28 points behind the championship lead and only 29 points behind the championship lead. Don't rule him out. Thomas Preining, the reigning champion, 2 mid-grid positions in qualifying at the Nürburgring, but he did well to come through to finish 6th in the previous race. So welcome everybody to the Nürburgring. Free practice 1 about to get underway. The car's heading out onto the track as we get the second half of the season underway. This first free practice session will run for 55 minutes. It's the longer of the 2 sessions that we have over the course of a Friday. This afternoon they'll go out again, but for a slightly shorter 45-minute session. It is a very lovely start to the weekend here in the Eifel region. 20 degrees the air temperature at the moment, barely a cloud in the sky. And it looks beautiful, but don't let this place lull you into a false sense of security, because it's August, which means it could be foggy, it could be snowing, it could be hailing, there could be thunderstorms, there could be rain, or it could be nice. It could be all of those things rolled into one, because the weather here is famously volatile, and indeed it looks unlikely that we're going to get a fully sunny race weekend tomorrow. The forecast is looking rather less positive, so interesting weekend lined up as always. We start the second half of the season right here after visits to Oschersleben, Lausitzring, Zandvoort and the Nürburgring. And after this, in a few weeks' time, the first weekend of September, we'll go to the wonderful Saxon Ring, Red Bull Ring at the end of September, and the season finale at Hockenheim in the middle of October. There you can see on screen the championship standings at 104 points for Mirko Bortolotti. Yet to get a win in 2024, but he's had 2 seconds and a third, and he's had points in every single race so far this season. A season where it's been difficult for drivers to be consistent because it's so competitive, it's so close, and getting 2 good results on a weekend has not been easy at all. So Mirko Bortolotti, who was fighting all the way to the end of the season for the championship in 2023 and came close to the championship, led the first half of the season until actually we got here to the Nürburgring, where it had a bit of a disastrous weekend in 2022 as well. So the Italian leads. He is 5 points clear of Kelvin van der Linde, who's on 99 points.
I have engine power loss. I don't have any engine power.
Okay, copy. Try to reset in the top right button. Try to reset, and if not, we come in.
And you can see that Marco Wittmann has come in. No engine power, so that's why he's being wheeled back into the garage. Not a good start for the 2-time champion, Marco Wittmann. He won races here in the DTM in 2014 and in 2016. 2 times a winner here, both of those seasons he went on to win the championship. So a tricky start to the weekend for Marco Wittmann, but they'll get the car out, I'm sure. There is René Rast, who is one of the most successful drivers around this circuit in the DTM. He's won 3 times around here. A few other drivers have done the same, Bert Schneider, Laurent Aiello amongst them, but nobody's ever won 4 times in the DTM around the Nürburgring. René Rast, though, is hot on the heels now of Mirko Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde for the championship push after his first win of the season at the Nürburgring. Then a brilliant drive from 19th on the grid to 5th in race 2 a few weeks ago before the summer break. René Rast on 93 points, only 11 points adrift of Mirko Bortolotti. Remember, the 25 points for each race win, so 50 points available from races during the course of just a single weekend. Plus you can get 3 points if you get on pole position as well, so 56 points available, and he's only 11 behind in 3rd place all of a sudden, the 3-time champion. Maro Engel, he's also right in the mix, 4th in the championship on 89 points. Like Mirko Bortolotti, no wins yet, but he's had 3 seconds, and he's also had points in every single race this season. So he's on 89, 15 behind the championship leader. And then Arjun Maini, having his best season so far in the DTM, is 5th in the championship. He's had the 1 podium at Zandvoort, a very good 4th place finish last time at the Nürburgring on the Sunday. 76 points, 28 points adrift of Mirko Bortolotti. And Thomas Priding, the reigning champion, he's hanging on in there. He has got 75 points, just 1 behind Arjun Maini, and 29 points off the championship lead. Just the 1 win for Thomas so far this year at the Lausitzring. A tough campaign, a tough qualifying really, which put him on the back foot at the circuit, where for the last 2 years he's been a race winner, Thomas Priding, but he did manage to get a good 6th place finish on the Sunday in the Porsche from the middle of the grid. The Nürburgring then, here we are, ready for 2 races this weekend. 2 free practice sessions today, 2 qualifying sessions, 1 on each morning on Saturday and Sunday, and of course the 1-hour races to come, as René Rast goes a little bit wide in the Schubert BMW through the first corner. And it is a 3.629 kilometre long lap. It's the short version of the Grand Prix circuit that we're using here, right adjacent, of course, to the world-famous Nordschleife. And we've had 40 races here in the DTM at this circuit, the first of which was held back in the year 2000. It's a really interesting track. The weather could be interesting this weekend, but for today at least, it is sunny, it is blue, and we're all set to go as the cars get up to speed in this first free practice session. So welcome, thanks for joining us to watch these free practice sessions here at the circuit in the commentary box overlooking the start-finish line and overlooking the garages. Is myself, Chris Hartley, and it's a very good morning, as always, to Brian Oliver alongside me in the commentary box.
Morning, Chris. It is a glorious day for going racing. We've already mentioned the weather this morning. You can see how blue the sky is. The doommongers reckon it's going to be chucking it down with rain tomorrow, but fear not, I will remind you that the last time we raced on a Saturday in the DTM, we saw an all-time classic. And it's fair to say the weather had an awful lot to do with that at the Nürburgring, that astounding race. Which was spectacular, and we saw René Rast coming through to take the 99th win for BMW in that particular instance. Here's some team radio. This is Max Powell.
I think I have a slow punch on the rear left. Okay, copy that, copy that. Keep going, and if it gets worse, you box.
You can see the car is just looks a little bit down. He's stayed out for the moment though. Brian, somebody might have been a rain here at the Nürburgring. It's exactly that.
Yes.
Max Powell, it absolutely threw it down last year, and he started 13th on the grid, mastered the conditions, and took a brilliant race victory.
Yes, and it was his debut weekend at DTM as well. So yes, absolutely, he will be doing his rain dance. That is for sure. It's going to be interesting to see, because the forecast is so dodgy for this weekend, if you want to call it that. In these, what are relatively warm conditions, this could be the only sunny running we get this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how they use these free practice sessions. We had GT Masters here just a couple of weeks ago. David Schumacher broke the track record in a GT3 car. A car that is identical to what is going to be running here, it is running here this weekend. He got a 124.902, so that's the kind of benchmark we're going to be looking at in qualifying. But if it's wet and it's, you believe the forecast, the rain may not be coming in till later tomorrow. So lots going on in the minds of the teams as they try and predict the weather, try to get a good setup for the dry, for the wet. It's going to be an interesting weekend. Yeah,
all we can deal with is what you've got in front of you at the moment. That is a beautiful dry track. Going quickest early doors is Lucas Stoltz, who made his debut here in the DTM back in 2021 with the Top Sport team, and got points in his first ever DTM race, a 9th place finish. Just did that one weekend here at the Nürburgring that year. And somebody else that made their debut here at the Nürburgring in that weekend in 2021 were SSR Performance, who brought a Porsche, and Michael Ammermuller, the Porsche Super Cup champion, came here for a weekend. They unfortunately had a tough weekend in terms of the races, 2 retirements for Michael Ammermuller. But of course, then they came back the next season, their first full crack at the DTM with Porsches. They've switched to Lamborghinis, and huge rise to fame for the SSR Performance squad, who are not just going for the Drivers' Championship with Mirko Bortolotti, but are also, of course, fighting for the Teams' Championship. Lamborghini lead the manufacturers' standings on 221 points, only 16 clear of Mercedes on 205, BMW third on 196. There's 25 points between the top 3 in the manufacturers. Schubert Motorsports, who have the 3 champions running for them this season, René Rast, Marco Wittmann and Sheldon van der Linde. They've got 186 points, and then second on 170 in the Teams' Championship at Abt Sportsline, team who got their first ever DTM race victory at this circuit back in 2001 with Laurent Aiello, only their second season in DTM. So only 16 points between the top 2 in the Teams' Championship, and then it's SSR Performance, the aforementioned, going great guns, third on 149 points, only 37 adrift, with the top 2 cars from each team contributing points each race weekend. So there's no advantage in having an extra driver for Schubert. You can't use best 2 cars. Brian, you mentioned the lap record unofficially being broken in testing by Schumacher in the GT3 car. The qualifying lap record is a 125.1, so he showed a couple of tenths off that. Mirko Bortolotti set that last year, and the race lap record here, held by Lucas Auer, also set last year with a 126.667.
Yes, Schumacher's lap was set in qualifying for the GT Masters. They had another test day just after that GT Masters event, and René Rast was the quickest then with a 124.974. But as you say, that's very unofficial. Also that test, Lucas Auer had a crash early on in the test, was unable to complete it. So he'll want to put that behind him and the memories of that behind him. He's doing well at the moment out on circuit. He's currently P2 with a 1:27.430.
Is indeed, as start to build up the speed a little bit now. Still 1:27.1, 1:27.4s are the quickest times that we've had, although Ricardo Fella just pops himself up to second place. He's had a tough first half of the season, driving third in last year's championship, 7th in this year's championship, 7th, but only 31 points adrift. Does need to start making inroads though, does Ricardo, but he was pretty happy with the way the test went here recently. We can hear from his teammate now, Kelvin van der Linde, who is heading into the pits.
7 tenths, holy shit. There's no way.
That's the first Euro in the swear box. Apologies
first
for
of
the
many.
language. That didn't take long, did it?
I'm not sure what he was holying about, to be quite honest. Something was going on, clearly.
Just can't believe it's sunny at the Nürburgring. That's probably what it is. On board with the championship leader, carrying one of our onboard cameras for the weekend, Mirko Bortolotti's done the absolute best first sector time so far with a 44.258. The first sector is the longer sector, so it takes in the first 5 turns until they turn off the Grand Prix circuit. And say 44 seconds. The second sector is only about 22 seconds long. That just takes in the left at turn 6 and the right at the Bilstein curve at turn 7, and then effectively the back straight, which has got flat out Advenboga, turn 8 in amongst it. That second sector takes you on the run up to the chicane, the Vidal chicane, and then that chicane turns 9 and 10, and the last turn at turn 11, the Hyundai N-curve, make up the third and final sector, which is even shorter still in terms of times, less than 21 seconds. So the first sector's the one you've really got to get right, because it almost adds up to half of the lap time. Mirko Bortolotti has absolutely done that so far. We're on board now with the reigning champion, Thomas Preining in the Manthey EMA Porsche. Guven is quickest at the moment in a Porsche with a 1:27.125. His teammate, great camera view there, looking up at the reigning champion Thomas Preining. He's still very much in the fight this year. Still half of the season to go. Things can change very quickly, and he showed good fighting spirit, didn't he, at the Nürburgring?
Yeah, he did, and he's kept his run of form. He's got, by my reckoning, 24 consecutive points finishes, which is very impressive. No one else is that high. So consistency, we said that's what could win a championship. Well, he did that last year. Not having as strong a season this year, but very much there, lurking in the background, as is that man there. Mr. Consistency, Mirko Bortolotti, back on board with Thomas Preining again now. Look how blue that sky is.
Yeah, Bortolotti went second quickest with his push lap there, a 1:27.036, 36 thousandths of a second behind Lucas Auer, who last time around set the absolute best lap time. Bortolotti's quickest in sector 1, Auer is quickest in sector 2, and Guven is quickest in sector 3. They are the top 3 currently, with just about a tenth between all 3 of them. Fourth quickest is Ricardo Fella, as Thomas Preining heads into the pits in front of us in the commentary box. And you're absolutely right, Brian. Thomas went the whole of 2023 and all of 2024 so far, finishing the races, every race, inside the points. And the other driver that's done that is Ricardo Fella. He's also been in the points all of the 2023 races and all of the races so far in 2024.
That's Marco Wittmann. Clearly, whatever the problem was, they unplugged it, plugged it back in again, Control-Alt-Delete, whatever it is, the car is running. But Marco Wittmann, who was spectacular at Zandvoort when he drove the remnants of that BMW home to take the win. Not such a good weekend at the Nürburgring, but clearly a lot of pace in that BMW. The team working hard to try and find out why it takes so long to get the tyres up to temperature in the BMW and the Mercedes, and particularly in qualifying, it's quite a science. The front engine cars are struggling to get heat into the tyres and getting them up to temperature quickly.
Arjun Guven on another pretty quick lap here in the Manthey EMA Porsche, just making his way out of the final turn, sprinting towards the start-finish line. The top speed around here will be around about 250 kilometres an hour. They get to 5th gear before they go into the slowest corner on the lap at turn 1. They drop all the way down to 1st gear for turn 1 and down to just 70 kilometres an hour. Now it's the return of Super Sub from Pereira. He came in for Christian Engelhardt for the TGI Grasser racing team at the Nürburgring. Christian having had to have a time out because he's had a knee operation. and he was hoping to be back with the summer break for this weekend, but he's not quite fully fit yet. So standing in for him again is from Pereira. Of course, that is one and only full season in the championship last year. Made his debut at the Nürburgring on a one-off weekend the year before that. But he came back at the Nürburgring, Brian, did a great job, didn't he?
Oh, yes, absolutely. What a drive that was in that classic Saturday race. And if you haven't watched it yet, I suggest you go and find it somewhere, because it really was spectacular. He came home in second place on the greasy track, on the slick tyres, one of just 3 cars to remain on the slick tyres. It was a gamble, and it paid off, and he came home into second place, and he'll be rubbing his hands together, having another opportunity. He'll be another one who'll probably be hoping for a bit of rain this weekend, but certainly it always feels like when he's subbing, he feels more dangerous than when he's in a full-time seat.
Yeah, well, I guess no worries about championship points for him. It was a great weekend for Lamborghini all around, with Luca Engstler getting on the podium in the same race. They were second and third behind René Rast, who braved it out on slicks when the rain came down in the middle of the race. On board with Clement Schmidt, who was a Lamborghini driver, and he's now a McLaren driver. McLaren's first full season in the championship, and the Duo Motorsport's first season. Thudding over the curbs there, Clement Schmidt. Kelvin van der Linde said that's his favourite bit of the track, because it's pretty rare that you get to really launch it over the curbs in a GT3 car and get airborne, but you certainly can through that Vidal chicane. On board then with the McLaren as it heads over the start-finish line, so 128.341 up to around about 250 kilometres an hour, fifth gear. Slow it down now, right down to just 70 kilometres an hour, all the way down to first gear. Hit the apex on the inside of the Yokohama S turn 1. About 140 kilometres an hour in second gear, then you ease off to 115 kilometres an hour through turn 2 as you go through the AMG Arena section now. Blip up to about 170 before this turn 3. You slow back down to 75 K, straight into a right-hander, second gear all the way through here, and then you launch over the curbs, head onto this back straight, get up to about 200 kilometres an hour, and fourth gear before you slow back down to second. This is where you turn off the Grand Prix circuit. The track drops down here as well, 80 kilometres an hour through there. On the gas, end of sector 1 that is. Then you go through the left-hander at turn 6 at 130 kilometres an hour, third gear through there, wrestling the car as he tries to control all that 500 plus brake horsepower. 125 kilometres an hour through the right-hander at turn 7, the Bilstein curve, and now it's flat out, absolutely flat through turn 8 here at Van Boga in 130 kilometres an hour. 230 kilometres an hour through there in fifth gear, and then 250 before we slow down to second gear through this chicane. The left, the right, turns 9 and 10, the Vidal chicane. You're into the third and final sector now, and you're into the final corner at the Hyundai N-Curva. Just second gear for this one as well, 105 kilometres an hour, and get on the gas. So this circuit, the drivers have been saying, is all about the rotation of the car through those slower turns where you've really got to try and get on the power early. There's a lot of second and third gear exits here.
Yes, it's one of the shorter circuits on the DTM calendar, but it takes a lot of getting right. It's quite technical in places, isn't it? And the exit out of the final corner, you get a good exit out of that onto the pit straight. That can give you a good run in towards turn 1, which is also a great overtaking opportunity. We're looking at the latest winner in DTM, Nikki Thiim, the Viking, who stole the headlines. And was that an emotional victory at the Nürburgring or what? It was very popular with the fans. He has a very vocal fan club.
Yeah, his maiden victory, actually only his 12th race start in the DTM. This is of course his first full season. He did a few rounds a few years ago with the T3 Motorsport squad. But joining his hero, which is his dad, Kurt Thiim, who was a 19-time DTM race winner. Also, Kurt was a winner at the Nürburgring. He won twice around that circuit. And a dream come true, more than 20 years of dreaming. He's always had a place in his heart for the DTM. He used to come and watch his dad race and winning it. He drove the old Rover Vitesse in 1986 and won the title at his first time of asking Kurt Thiim. Young Nicky was there watching, and what a week he had back in July, Brian, because in the space of 7 days, he won the Spa 24-hour race in stonking fashion as an Aston Martin factory driver, which he still is. And then he got his first DTM race win at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, been looking back at that week thinking, right, what did I have for breakfast? What's my lucky underwear? I'm going to have all that lot lined up. I'm going to have it all again for Nürburgring, because he was a man on a mission. I should think he's probably still got a headache after all that partying. It's a good job he had the summer break, isn't it?
Yeah, the hangover might have just about cleared about a week ago, I reckon. No, he's a busy professional racing driver.
Of course,
yeah. Fourth quickest at the moment, going okay, 1:27.154. But you can see those lap times are way off what we're going to be getting when they put the new tyres on. They go for the lightest fuel oil possible in qualifying when we're going to get down. Certainly, well, if it stays dry, we should get down to the low 125s. I mean, it might not get the chance to go. I mean, these might be the quickest laps of the weekend if the weather gets bad and stays bad. Although Sunday afternoon prediction is better, but it's almost not worth looking at the weather predictions around this part of the world until the day of, because it changes so quickly.
Yeah, it means absolutely nothing. As you say, it could be snowing by tomorrow morning. This is the Nürburgring, for goodness sake.
Well, a couple of years ago here, we had to wait until gone 4 o'clock for the race to get underway because there was thick fog over the whole circuit. In August, how does that happen?
Well, there was a fairly thick fog around the place yesterday morning. I saw some pictures from here. I mean, I wasn't here, but there was a fair amount of fog around. So, yes, that is also a possibility. But that's why we love the Nürburgring. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Right, so a little bit quieter on track. Lucas Auer and Mirko Bortolotti, the top two are both in the pits. There you can see that Nikki Thiim going back into the garage as well. He's fourth quickest, Ricardo Feller fifth quickest. They're all in the garage. So off from the top 10, Guven, who's third, Engel, who's sixth, Preining, who's seventh, Stoltz and Pereira, who are 8th and 9th, are still out there. Marco Wittmann has had a pretty good lap time. Best BMW so far, despite the start not being ideal, with the engine having a bit of a misfire. Marco Wittmann 10th, half a second between the top 10. The door being fanned on Mirko Bortolotti because 21 degrees with no airflow, it would be pretty hot inside that cockpit. Add about 20 degrees to the air temperature to what it actually is inside the cockpit of those cars.
Yes, and of course, last year, Mirko Bortolotti had that wonderful Saturday. He won the race and then never even made the start on the Sunday, did he? Some undisclosed issue with the car meant that he never took the green flag. So we'll be still looking for that first win of the season, but his main thing is picking up those points, because the bigger picture is what is in his mind. Those eyes are focused on the championship, not just on individual race wins. The door is shut, looks like the car is rolling, and he's going to go back out on circuit. Still got 32 minutes left of this, the first of two free practice sessions here on this Friday at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, wins have been fairly evenly spread in the GT3 era of DTM since 2021. Last year, Lamborghinis won both races in very different weather conditions, Mirko Bortolotti and Max Powell, but that's the only brand that's won more than one race here. So BMW, Mercedes, Audi and Ferrari all with one win apiece here. McLaren, of course, their first season in the championship. Over the whole DTM period here since 2000, the most wins at this track have gone to Audi with 17, Mercedes next best on 13, and then BMW on 5, a long way back. Lamborghini, Opel from the early part of that period on 2 each. Ferrari with just that one race win from Alex Albon, as we go back on board with Thomas Preining. Now I suppose we have to do it at some point, talk about balance of performance and what's changed since the Nürburgring. The biggest BOP change since the last round of the championship is that Mercedes have now got a 35mm restrictor rather than a 36mm restrictor. It's only 1mm, but it will restrict the flow a little bit more for those Mercedes, but their boost has been increased back up a little bit to kind of compensate for that. Mercedes and Ferrari are the only brands where the BOP weight has remained unchanged since the Nürburgring. The Lamborghinis and the Porsches have an extra 15 kilograms of BOP ballast than compared to Nürburgring. The BMWs are lighter, they're 10 kilograms lighter than the Nürburgring, and the Audis and the McLarens are both a little bit lighter, 5 kilograms lighter. But the interesting thing is that all of the brands have more BOP ballasts at the Nürburgring this year than they did in 2023. So the Ferraris are 25 kilograms heavier at this circuit than they were a year ago. The Lambos and the Mercedes are 15 kilograms heavier than they were at this track last year, although the Mercedes has got a slightly larger restrictor. BMWs are 10 kilograms heavier, Audis are 5 kilograms heavier, but with a ½ millimetre larger restrictor. The only brand that's got exactly the same weight on the car that it had 12 months ago is the Porsche that you're looking at. The two Porsches, their weights remained unchanged, but of course this year the ride height went up by 10 millimetres on the Porsches, and they've got a slightly larger restrictor as well. As just running off the road a bit there is Thomas Preining coming through the AMG arena, just still building up the speed at the moment, and runs a bit wide again there, does Thomas, but he is second quickest. So the car has got speed, but it looks a bit of a handful at the moment. His lap time there, though, was just 5 thousandths of a second slower than Lucas Auer. So now you've got 36 thousandths of a second between Auer, Preining and Bortolotti.
Yeah, well, don't let anybody tell you that BOP is not working when you look at the fact that there is 9/10 of a second as we listen to Thomas Preining. We'll come back to that in a moment.
Same shit, just on a higher level. Still no grip.
No grip.
Yeah, 9/10 of a second separating the top 18 at the moment. The BOP, it's always the topic that comes up. Ferrari say, well, Jack Aitken says in Ferrari that the BOP is difficult to classify because of the excellent mechanical grip that Ferrari has that can often compensate for a lack of performance, and they certainly feel as though they don't have the grunt that they might want. Jack Aitken in 13th, which, by the way, we offer our congratulations to Jack.
Newly
and
married.
Alex. Yes, congratulations on getting married. So Mr. and Mrs. Aitken.
Yes, absolutely right. No, so huge congratulations to them. Got the stag do a few months ago, didn't he? Up in Scotland, because Dad's Scottish, Mom South Korean for the British driver. And a beautiful part of Britain if you ever get the chance to go there. I've been lucky enough to be there for a couple of weeks over the last few weeks up at, on the west coast near Troon and the Isle of Arran, and then we were in Edinburgh last week and up at Knockhill. It's an absolutely fantastic part of the world.
Very nice indeed, and lovely weather for it as well. We were talking about the BOP. We'll come back to that briefly. There's been so much discussion about it, and one of the discussions was about whether you could put torque sensors on the cars, but Thomas Voss of the ADAC has said absolutely not, because the cost involved €40,000 for a pair of those, plus costly software.
Start saving, Brian.
So it's, yeah, the BOP is here to stay, and it is very much as we see it now, a very complex formula. It's not just worked out on the back of an envelope or something. But it was interesting that at the Nürburgring, they took the quickest cars of each manufacturer from FP2 and checked that they weren't sandbagging. So one of each manufacturer after FP2, they checked the weight, fuel quantities, damper setting, things like that, to make sure that the teams weren't trying to play the system during free practice on the Friday. That's how closely they're monitoring it, and it's working because we so often see the whole field covered by about a second, so it must be working.
Are you suggesting that sometimes teams pretend not to be as quick as they really are?
Well, I wouldn't go that far to say that.
Never heard such a thing. Right, the McLaren, because the McLarens are the two that are the hardest to sort the BOP out, because you've got no back reference, have you, as it's their first season in the championship. Ben Durr currently 19th, Clement Schmidt currently 20th. Clements will be absolutely delighted that From Pereira is back this weekend, because remember the Nürburgring last year, they had a bit of a clash, didn't they, those two? So I know it was the Lausitz-Ring. They had a bit of a clash, didn't they? Which potentially cost Clement Schmidt a podium finish. But there have been some high points already for that team making their way, led by the very experienced Clement Schmidt, and points in the bag already in his first season for Ben Durr as well. The top 18 are covered by 8/10 of a second. That's all going to change, and lap times are going to vary across the course of the weekend, but it shows you that it is going to be tight around what's a relatively short lap, 3.629 kilometres. That's just over 2.2 miles long, this 11-turn circuit. Great view there, looking right down on from the front grille of the car as you are right about 2-3 centimetres above the tarmac. Make your way through the Vidal chicane on board with Clement Schmidt here. That gives you a real sense of speed. And around the undulating circuits, where, you know, thinking of the Sachsenring coming up, next month. That's the kind of view the drivers are getting as well. So it's a fairly flat circuit here at the Nürburgring, but when you're going over crests and rises, they don't get much anticipated view, do they? They're straight into it. You can't see the corner until you're in the corner.
Yeah, you have to have fairly big whatnots to keep your foot buried on it when you go up over those hills, because there's not much of a view. Yeah, the Dirt Motorsport, one of the things they're really working on are their pit stops, and I've been gazing aimlessly out of the window whilst we've been talking, and I've seen them come into the pits to do practice pit stops, because Dirt Motorsport, it's the first time they've had to do performance pit stops as a team, and they're still trying to get to grips with the discipline. So it's something they're rehearsing, going over and over again, because of course races are so often won or lost on the pit stops. It's not just about getting the tyres changed quickly, it's about keeping to the rules as well, not spinning the wheels on the jacks, etc, etc. Very disciplined procedure. I'm just gazing out the window, and as I speak, there is in fact a Dirt Motorsport McLaren just coming into his pit box.
And Thomas Preining as well. He's on a pretty good lap there, but he's come in. He did the absolute best middle sector on that lap, but he's aborted the lap in the end. He is quickest overall now, though, from his previous lap. By a tenth of a second in this free practice session. So complaining that the car is a bit loose. It looked a bit loose, didn't it, when we saw it earlier in the first sector through the AMG arena in the first 2 or 3 turns. But it's also quick, 126.860, or at least quick in the context of this practice session relative to the others. So he and Arjun Maini are both the 2 Porsche drivers that have broken under that 127 barrier now, given with his best lap of the session last time around. Second quickest, 0.177 seconds behind. In fact, he's in front now, isn't he? Guen's gone quicker, 126.683 as he just crosses the line and goes to the top of the time. So Arjun Maini has just completed the lap. He's just at turn 1. So he's had 2 best laps of the session, and that one was the best of all, 126.683 to go ahead of his teammate Thomas Preining, who's nearly 2 tenths down on him. Lucas Auer with the 127 dead is third. A replay on board Thomas Preining coming into the Manthey pit stop area for a practice stop. You mentioned the pit stop times for the Mercedes crew, the Dirt Motorsport crew. So a really good pit stop time. He's around about 6.5 seconds. We've seen lots of 6.5 second pit stop times this year. The best at the Nürburgring was a 6.5 dead for Kelvin van der Linde and the Abt Sports line team. Manthey can do that as well. They've had lots of good pit stops, 6.6 seconds in race 1 at the Nürburgring for Guen. He had the best pit stop at Oschersleben in race 1 at 6.6 as well. The best we've seen all year has been a 6.3 second pit stop for Christian Engelhardt and Team Liqui Moly. But for McLaren, you're looking at 6.5 being really good. 7, he's pretty good as well, 7 seconds stationary time this is. But Ben Durr's quickest so far has been an 8.6, and for Clement Schmidt, his best stop time over the course of the season has been a 7.1. So I've had that 7.1, but they've mostly been in the 8 and 9 seconds. And when you lose 2 seconds in a pit stop, and given that everybody is lapping within thousandths of a second of each other, that can actually make a fairly big impact on your race, can't it?
Oh, it's absolutely massive, isn't it? And that is why Dirt Motorsport are working so hard on it. Arjun Maini, we were talking about him yesterday. We said he's had a fairly quiet start to the season by what he was looking for, but he got an 8th place at Nürburgring, was looking very dialed in there. And you got to feel like the momentum is starting to build with that Manthey Porsche. We have Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany racing this weekend, and on Sunday they will be celebrating. Oh, it just goes very wide there, picks up a bit of dirt. On Sunday, Carrera Cup Germany will be celebrating its 400th race, and I was just looking back at the records to the very first Porsche Carrera Cup Germany win back in 1990 by one Mr. O. Manthey, owner of the team that is running that car there. So Olaf Manthey, he will be making the headlines for different reasons this weekend as we remember his first ever win in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany all the way back in 1990.
Absolutely right, and still very enthusiastic about his motorsport. Will be there behind the scenes. One of the curbs on the way into the pit lane entry there was Arjun Maini with the left rear corner. Kelvin van der Linde has popped himself up to 3rd quickest and has also broken the 127 barrier now. So 126.964 seconds for Kelvin, and that means there is just under 3 tenths of a second between, well, the top 3, but also only just over 3 tenths between the top 5. with Lucas Auer and Mirko Bortolotti 4th and 5th, and in the pit lane at the moment. Yeah, going back to Arjun Maini, it's just amazing that he's 18th out of 20 in the championship. He's such a good driver, double Porsche France champion, a former front runner in Porsche Super Cup. He's a hero in Turkey as well, and he's a really quick driver. But yeah, the whole team has struggled a little bit this year compared to their very high normal standards from last yeed. And Arjun hasn't had the rub of the green sometimes, has he? He's had a few bits of accident damage and things like that along the way. So hopefully better second half of the season for him. As we ride on board with René Rast, who is hunting down a 4th championship title, up to 3rd in the standings, and very much in the fight now, as a 2nd season for him as a BMW driver after all those years with Audi. And as I say, if he gets a win here this weekend, he'll become the first driver to get 4 DTM race wins around the Nürburgring.
Yes, he's a bit of a stealth fighter. He's just kind of creeping up in the background. He's got no excuses now. He's got used to the BMW. He's in his 2nd season in it, and he's certainly dialed in. He was so impressive at Nürburgring, and he's just loitering there, picking up the points. Without a doubt, a potential challenger for the championship, and again, looking very dialed in.
Yeah, first, I should clarify, in this era, since 2000, to get more than 3 DTM wins. There have been others that have even won 4 in a season, but that wasn't on this version of the circuit. We'll talk more about that in the preview shows on Saturday and Sunday. That's looking back to the Nordschleife version of the circuit that was used in the late 80s and early 1990s. Right on board with René Rast, eyes firmly fixed on the circuit ahead, always looking ahead, pushed back in that seat, strapped in tight with that harness. And where is he at the moment? He is 15th, and 1:27.6 is his best lap time, but we're not necessarily just looking at best lap times, are we? Because we're also looking at getting the car set up for a longer run. And you don't know what fuel loads everybody's on, but it's about getting a good run, seeing how the tyres react to the circuit over 8 or 9 lap runs normally.
Yes, we get some really good information on our graphics here as well, with tyres and the number of laps they've done on them. This is some new information for us. This is quite useful. It'd be great when we get into the wet tyre territory as well, which I'm sure we won't this weekend, as we look at Arjun Maini in the Mercedes. But yes, some great data coming through there.
What a great season so far for Arjun Maini. It's great to see him going well. It's a tough year last year in 2023. Mostly they couldn't get the best from the Mercedes in qualifying. The race pace was good, but he was always starting from a lowly grid position. Last year, his qualifying was really tough, so he averaged on the grid last year, Arjun Maini, 19th on the grid. This year, it's been a complete turnaround, and Arjun Maini's average grid position this year has been 6th. He's one of the best qualifiers over the course of the season. He's twice qualified in the top 3. 5 times he's qualified in the top 5, and apart from qualifying 2 at the Lausitzring, he's always been in the top 10. So he's had a good starting point at most race weekends, and he's raced well also. And say he's got the 1 podium this year at Zandvoort, but he scored points in every single race this season. More often than not, he's been running in the top 8 or 10. First ever Indian driver in DTM, first ever Indian driver to get a podium when he got his first season in 2021 at the Nürburgring. And he is up to 5th place in the championship and very much in the title fight here. He's 2nd quickest with that lap as well, 1:26.765. Good effort.
Yeah, and you think it's probably not going to be too long before we see him on the top step of the podium, because he really is another of the drivers who's getting better and better with every race. Looking at Max Powell out on circuit, remembering last year, the very much family-run team, the Powell Motorsport Lamborghini, and his dad, who runs the team, Tobias, and his son, very, very proud of his son, and don't necessarily have the budgets of some of the bigger teams, but a real fan favourite. He has the self-belief without being arrogant about it. He knows he can win. He's done it in the past, and really still learning the ropes in DTM, very much his first full season. But great to see Max Powell as part of this. He's one of those drivers who just absolutely loves what he's doing here. as he comes out at 1:28.076. As we so often say in free practice, though, don't pay too much attention to the times. A lot of setting up, a lot of long runs, finding out, getting data, finding the limits of the track. Max Powell's done a fair few laps around the Nürburgring over the years, though.
Yeah, he's absolutely got the speed. He's a very competitive driver. He got pole position, remember, at Zandvoort. Unfortunately, the race didn't work in his favour. He's had some bad luck along the way as well. It's another team that have had a few hiccups in the pit stops, but there's so much pressure in those pit stops to turn it around, to change all four wheels, get the cars back out in less than 7 seconds. It's a real art, and they'll get better and better at that. But when they've had hiccups, he said, look, we win as a team, we lose as a team. We all make mistakes, drivers make mistakes, and so everybody else is allowed to make a mistake as well. Max Powell, who is the only driver on the grid that is a racing driver, but also a team manager for the same team, effectively, isn't he? Because he very much, with Dad Tobias, runs that team.
Yes, very kind of prolific figures, there's a word, in the world of GT racing. It's so good to have them in DTM, fulfilling the dream. Just going around, still getting the data at the moment. Personal best in Sector 1, going very wide out of the final corner, out onto the pit straight. Still Arjun Maini, the quickest of all. You can see that Max Powell jumps up to 12th place at 1:27.295, so very much mixing it with the rest of them.
Yeah, he is, Max Powell is second quickest on the track at the moment, behind the driver you're looking at, Arjun Maini. So doing slightly longer runs now, the drivers, but those two are the only two in the 1:27s, except Thierry Vermeulen's just done a 1:27.5 as well in the Ferrari. We often don't see fast lap times in either free practice session from the Ferraris, do we? They very much at Emile Frey Racing look like they concentrate on the long game and getting the car set up for the longer runs. So often we don't see even many laps at all in free practice 1 from either Thierry Vermeulen or Jack Aitken, and they haven't been that busy in this session. Thierry's done 16 laps, Jack's done 13 laps. He's in the pits at the moment, but there are some out there that have done 20+ laps in this session so far.
Yes, it's always the way with them, isn't it? We just look at them and we think, oh, they've got a problem. But no, they just appear to be saving themselves and their machinery, as you say. They're not doing loads of laps, although Jack Aitken's done 15 laps in this session. Thierry Vermeulen has done 19 laps in this session, so they've done a bit, but certainly not troubling the top of the timing screens at the moment. But again, they're the teams that often like that, and then come qualifying tomorrow morning, suddenly they're up there at the very front.
Sheldon van der Linde is just the absolute best second sector time. Personal best in Sector 1. He's about 4/10ths down through the first sector. It's personal best through the final sector, and he rockets all the way up to third quickest with that lap time. So 1:26.812. That means the top 5 have all now broken the 1:27-second barrier. Nguyen with a 1:26.6, Maini with a 1:26.7. Then van der Linde with that 1:26.812, just half a tenth quicker than Thomas Preining, who's 4th. Kelvin van der Linde with a 1:26.9 in 5th, and then 1:27 dead for Lucas Auer, 6th. 1:27.018 for Max Powell, who's up to 7th with 2 consecutive quick lap times now. Mirko Bortolotti, 1:27.036. He set that time early on in the 7th lap of the session. He's 8th. Lucas Stoltz is 9th with a 1:27.1 and 10th with a 1:27.1. He's Nikki Thiim, so 4/10ths of a second or so, covering the top 10. And Arjun Maini, after a quick visit to the pits, has already gone back out on track.
Yes, I'd probably just in, I don't know what they were doing in the pits, but it's kind of lots of coming in, checking things, checking tyre pressures, adjustments, and then back out again, collecting all that valuable data. Only 2 free practice sessions, no other test sessions this weekend. So there's a lot to be done in these 2 sessions. Of course, FP1 has been extended by 10 minutes for 2024 on account of the fact that testing is very much restricted now in DTM, helping to keep the costs down. So these are very valuable sessions, and every team has its own program that it's running to, and so that's why we don't pay too much attention to the times. They're all coming in, going out, coming in, getting the data that they need. Mirko Bortolotti, he's out on track at the moment. Currently, he is in 9th place at 1:27.036.
Yeah, restricted testing to try and keep the costs down for teams, which is why we have this slightly longer first free practice session now. The team said, all right, if you're going to limit our testing, we'll have a bit more time on track on a race weekend then. So that's why this first session is slightly longer. It's only 10 minutes, but it's slightly longer at 55 minutes than the 45-minute session we'll get for free practice too. This season, the new rule, only 5 days of testing per driver. Once the season starts, and at a maximum of 5 different racetracks, and they can only use a maximum of 3 sets of tyres per day during those tests. So very heavily policed and monitored as well, because if any of those rules are broken, they will be getting fines and penalised. Staring into those blue eyes of Mirko Bortolotti then, who looks like he's just almost sat in an armchair, doesn't he? He looks so relaxed behind the wheel of the car, but it's 100% focus. He barely blinks, does he?
Yes, and this section here, they need to be especially focused. I just noticed we've had 5 track limit infringements. This corner here, turn 10, René Rast, 2 for Sheldon make that 3 for Sheldon van der Linde, and also Arjen Changuin. And they can get away with it at the moment, but in qualifying tomorrow and on Sunday, if they exceed track limits, they're going to lose the time. They get black and white flags for exceeding track limits in free practice and in the race as well. And 3 black and white flags will see a grid penalty. So really important. And here is a view of Lucas Auer doing a little bit, what looks like a bit of grass track racing.
Bit of drifting there from the Austrian driver. He's had a good start to the weekend. It's been a race winner previous years, but hasn't picked up a win yet. The championship runner-up 2 years ago, Lucas Auer. Mirko Bortolotti, who we're on board with, set the absolute best first sector time, 44.013. He's about 3.5 tenths down in the middle sector. Good final sector, so overall it's his best lap time, 126.838, and it puts him up to 4th place, but just lost a little bit of time in the middle sector, which is turn 6, 7, that back straight effectively, and then before you get to the chicane. So the higher speed stuff, interestingly, when the Lamborghini lost out a bit. Ricardo Feller last time around got himself up to 6th quickest. I think he's going even quicker on this lap. 2 personal bests so far. About to head for the line in the number 7 Abt Sportsline Audi, and that is an improvement again to 4th place this time. Gets ahead of Mirko Bortolotti, 126.821. Brian, we've got the drivers in 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th have all set 126.8. So there's just under half a tenth of a second between Sheldon van der Linde, Ricardo Feller, Mirko Bortolotti and Thomas Preining.
I have nothing more to say about BOP. Mirko Bortolotti has a nice clear track in front of him. We're looking at that lap at Ricardo Feller. You saw him coming through turn 10, going extremely wide. I've got one eye on the screen to see if that lap will still count. Testing the suspension across the chicane, Mirko Bortolotti coming round to complete another lap. Nothing too spectacular in the sector times, but again, he's not really looking for just quick times, still picking up the data. He crosses the line. It's P2 still, 126.711. So that's actually a pretty solid time. So that was his quickest time of the session.
Yeah, now you've got 82 thousandths of a second between the top 3, Guwen, Bortolotti and Maini, as through turns 2 and into turn 3 goes the Lamborghini of the Italian, who, like a lot of the other drivers, including René Rast and Sheldon van der Linde, is also competing as a factory driver this year in the World Endurance Championship in the hypercar, which is still very much under development for Lamborghini in the case of Mirko Bortolotti. So a lot of these drivers racing DTM, racing the World Endurance Championship, racing IMSA if you're Jack Aitken, lots of them racing the GT World Challenge Europe, like Maro Engel and Lucas Auer, who are partnered together and are going successfully in that championship. So they get many weekends off once the season starts.
No, it's a busy life being a racing driver, isn't it?
I think all the 24-hour races that they can take part in as well. That's here at the Nürburgring.
Luca Engsley's in 13th place at the moment. His way of unwinding, he's been cycling across Europe on his mountain bike, has finally cycled back to Germany in time to make it to the Nürburgring this weekend. I can't remember where he started now. It was a long, long way away, and I thought it was rather him than me. So that's his way of unwinding. But a lot of these drivers in so many other series as well. So they don't just do DTM, they are racing, some of them every weekend, as you say. Lot of physical effort, a lot of mental effort, a lot of travelling as well.
Yeah, Jack Aitken's another keen cyclist, isn't he? Gets on his bike, takes himself off. It's his way of not just staying fit, but also getting away from everything and relaxing. I kind of prefer the Kelvin van der Linde style of the holiday break. He went off to Greece for a couple of weeks and had a break there. That's
a few cocktails.
Although that said, I am from England, so Greece in August, a bit too hot for me, to be fair.
Oh, what a lightweight.
Barrow Engel up to third place, 126.755. So Bortolotti, Engel and Maini all in the 126.7s now. Only one of the 126.6s, Arjun Maini, who's at the top of the times with a 126.68 through. You shouldn't get too excited about times because they will, if it stays dry, that's the caveat, get quicker when we get to qualifying and the race. But it's always interesting to see how they are going. It's only free practice. You don't know what everybody's running in terms of tyres and fuel loads, etc., and how much they're really going for it. Jack Aitken, I think he's headed for the pit lane, isn't he? Yes, he is. Having had a brief run back out. His best time so far, 127.6. Only 0.9 seconds away from the fastest time of the session, but 0.9 seconds in DTM puts you 18th out of the 20.
Insanely close right there. So rehearsing, keeping to the speed limit as well. That's very important. So Jack Aitken back into the pits. The Emil Frey team getting to work on that. Nikki Thiim still out on track at the moment, bumping across the chicane. Interesting, the lap times. I mean, we say there's nothing to be read into them. They are a couple of seconds slower than what we might expect. Probably running older tyres as well. Of course, tyres very heavily restricted in DTM, but nobody kind of showing their hand at the moment.
Improvement for Nikki Thiim up to 10th, 126.992. Did a personal best first sector. Lost about 2.5 tenths in the middle sector compared to the best sector times. And compared to the best sector 3, he was 4 tenths down. So first half of the lap, good for Nikki Thiim relative to the fastest time of Arjun Maini, but he lost out to the tune of more than half a second really in the second half of the lap, particularly that last sector. But overall, did get a personal best and up into 10th place now. 0.3 of a second between the top 10.
He did exceed track limits as well, so we've had a warning, 2 warnings for Nikki Thiim for track infringements, one at turn 10 and the other at an unspecified corner, probably turn 10. Yeah, the steward's taking a look at that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk about track limits a lot these days, and because it is a key topic, it has big effects on qualifying and races when penalties start being applied. And I know that most of you listening know what it's all about, but I'm always aware that there are newcomers to the sport might be watching for the first time. So just to explain, the white lines around the edge of the circuit, that is effectively the edge of the track. And if you put 2 wheels over that white line, you are seen to be gaining advantage, i.e. you get on the power as quick as you can coming out of a corner. That sends the car wide and you go over the white lines, but you do benefit from being able to accelerate more sharply. And then when you go through corners and through chicanes in particular, you can go over the white line to kind of straight line the corner, make it as straight a line as possible and be even quicker through there. So that's where you seem to be gaining an advantage. Where there's a curb beyond the white line, which is often, then you can go beyond that white line. You can go onto the curbs with 2 wheels, but you're not meant to go all 4 wheels past the curbs, and there's very tightly monitor that kind of thing. And obviously there are curbs on the exit to turn 10 coming out of the chicane. But they're still going a little bit beyond that. And it's all about them trying to get on the gas really early, because it's a flat circuit, but it's a slightly uphill run, isn't it, coming out of that chicane up towards the final turn 11. So you do need to get on the gas quickly to get up the hill.
Yes, interestingly, we didn't have any track limit warnings at the Nürburgring. The clue being that there's a wall there, and some would say, well, if there was a wall where the white line is, you wouldn't be crossing it, and that's why it is policed very heavily. There's a lot of time that can be won or lost by maximising the circuit. which is why they're exploring the limits. But it appears to be this corner here, which Nikki Thiim is certainly playing it very safe there. But turn 10 is where it all seems to be happening at the moment. That's where all of the warnings have been up until now.
Marco Wittmann, personal best through the first sector in the number 11 BMW, but his first sector time's half a second down on the best first sector time, so losing out a lot there. He's lost another 3/10 in the middle sector, and he did a 21.6 through the final sector, so lost about 1/10 and a half through there, so losing out a lot for the first half of the lap. But again, you don't know what Marco has got setup-wise. He might be on a heavier fuel load, might be running at longer pace. That just gives you some indication of where he was losing out relative to the very quickest lap time. Sheldon van der Linde, the best of the BMWs in the pits at the moment. He's in 6th place with a 126.8, just over 1/10 of a second away from the best time. Less than a 10th now between the top 5 as the flag comes out. Guen, Bortolotti, Engel, Maini and Thiim, all within 99 thousandths of a second of each other, which bodes well for another super competitive weekend, Brian.
Yes, just like that. 55 minutes of FP1 is done and dusted as the dust is kicked up into the air out of the corner. But yes, an interesting session. I don't know if it's given us many clues, but Arjun Maini looking good. Mirko Bortolotti, well, we always knew he was going to be a danger coming into this weekend. Some interesting names at the top. At the bottom, well, Jack Aitken is down in P18, just behind René Rast, but we don't know what they've got up their sleeve. Sheldon van der Linde up in P6, the quickest of the BMWs.
Aitken with a personal best through the first sector, so having a bit of a dummy run at the end. Personal best through sector 2 as well. Marco Wittmann was personal best in the middle and the final sector, so he's done a better lap, but he stays 16th with a 127.5. Jack Aitken is the one that's going to move up the order here. 18th place. I don't think he'll be for long. He's about to cross the line, right behind René Rast. It's only up to 15th though, but again, only 6/10 of a second away from the best time, so moves up a little bit into 15th in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. 9th in the championship, but only, was it 35 points off the championship lead. 2 times a race winner this year. It was on pole at the Nürburgring on Saturday, but the changeable weather, which made life a bit of a lottery, in the end didn't work out for him, and he dropped back to 9th place. But Jack, you know, another win, another podium in the next couple of rounds of the championship. He'll be right in the championship fight as well. So some super slow-mos of our top 3 from the first free practice session. Maro Engel, 4th in the championship, 3rd in that session, 126.755 seconds for the German driver, which put him 0.72 of a sec, 0.072 behind the fastest time. Just ahead of him in second was Mirko Bortolotti in the SSR Performance Lamborghini, 44 thousandths quicker than Maro Engel, and only 28 thousandths behind Arjun Maini, who was quickest in free practice 1 for the Manthey EMA Porsche squad with a 126.683 second lap sets in the latter part of, the middle part of the session. A busy first free practice session then. There's confirmation of the times. Arjun Maini, Mirko Bortolotti and Maro Engel, as we told you. Arjun Maini looking strong again, 4th place for him. Nürburgring race winner Nikki Thiim in 5th place. Sheldon van der Linde, Ricardo Feller, Thomas Preining, Lucas Auer, Kelvin van der Linde in the top 10. Max Powell in 11th place ahead of Lucas Stoltz. Luca Engsler, Frank Pereira subbing for Christian Engelhardt for the second weekend running. Jack Aitken with a late improvement to 15th ahead of his teammate Thierry Vermeulen. And then Marco Wittmann in the BMW, 17th, just ahead of René Rast, with the McLarens of Ben-Dur and Clement Schmidt 19th and 20th. So we look forward to your company this afternoon as we get set for the second free practice session. That'll be 45 minutes of action. Local time, that gets underway at 3:50 p.m. at 10 to 4. We'll be on air just before that to talk you through the session. Thanks from Brian and from me, Chris Hartley, then. Speak to you again for free practice 2 later on today.